right. This is just a mic check as well. Might as well set the date. Today is the 7th of December, 2021.
All right.
And this is just a mic check. That sound is
as
coming
well.
through. And this is part 2 of Roman Catholic pervert popes. Before we get into the pervert popes, I want to let's have a listen to Robert Spencer. If you don't know who Robert Spencer is, the best thing to do would be for me to let the interviewer introduce him, and then let's hear what he has to say. The topic that they are talking about is actually the existence of Muhammad. Let's figure out. Let's see what happens there, and then we'll get into Nephilim Free making a total idiot of himself on modern day debate, and then we'll tackle these the Catholic pervert pope, the one that we have left. Yesterday we did John the 12th, and today we have Benedict the 9th. So in the meantime, let's have this channel is called Apostate Imam. He's really not an imam at all, but I didn't choose the channel for Apostate Imam. I chose the channel for the conversation with Robert Spencer,
an ex-Muslim scholar of comparative religion, and I left Islam in the year 2014 and running this channel from past 2 months, and it's the fastest growing ex-Muslim channel. And today with me is Robert Spencer, who is founder of Jihad Watch, and
all
he
right. I just should mention that this guy, Apostate Imam, just 1 second. Let me show you that I'm actually a real person today. So this guy, Apostate Imam, what he's doing is, firstly, he's not an imam and he's not a scholar, but nevertheless, he calls his channel Apostate Imam. If you watch Apostate Prophet's channel now, it's fresh out of the oven, as it were. Apostate Prophet actually had an interview with Apostate Imam, this guy that's interviewing Robert Spencer. And why don't I have my headphones on? And it seems, excuse me, there we go. Okay, so it seems that Apostate Imam is not an imam and he's not a scholar. He's just the anti-Muslim, ex-Muslim, whatever. I don't know. But what he's doing here, he's using a voice synthesizer, which makes his voice sound very kind of annoying, like he's just inhaled helium. All he does is inhale helium. Oxygen is not part of his diet. So I apologize for that, but yeah, let's listen to Robert Spencer at the very least.
is the best-selling author of his book History of Jihad. He wrote several books like Did Muhammad Exist? And History of Jihad from ISIS, from Muhammad to ISIS, and Confession of an Islamophobe, Truth About Muhammad. And I actually left Islam because of him, and I led more than hundreds of people to leave Islam. And his books were a trigger point for me, and I start doubting Islam when I start reading Robert Spencer. So I'm really happy that the person who enlightened me is now here with me, and today we will discuss whether Muhammad exists or not. So welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I am very honored by your words, and I much appreciate you having me on.
So I would like to know that you wrote this book, Did Muhammad Exist? And this book is amazing. Means I have most of your books in my bookshelf, and I love reading you. As I said before that I leave Islam when I start reading you. I like your book, The Palestinian Delusion, The Catastrophic History of the Middle East Peace Process, and reading America's President. So, so how you see the existence of Muhammad? Did this person ever exist? Uh, it's just creation or invention of Abbasid.
Yes, it does seem to be that Muhammad, as we know him in the Hadith and Sirah literature, is indeed a creation of the Abbasids, and that before that, the Umayyads only had the very most sketchy information about him, not because they were irreligious. The Abbasids charged the Umayyads with their religion in order to cover up the fact and to explain the fact that they were coming out with all this material about Muhammad in the 9th century that had not been known previously. And so they claimed, well, see, the Umayyads, they didn't really care about Islam, so they didn't publicize all this. But actually, it simply hadn't been invented yet. From the available data, it appears that there was probably someone named Muhammad, but all the mentions of Muhammad from the time that he's supposed to have lived, actually there are no mentions of Muhammad from the time that he's supposed to have lived, but all the mentions of Muhammad from the years immediately following the traditional date of his death in 632 AD do not correspond to the Muhammad of the Hadith and Sirah literature. For example, there is in a document from the 630s that says that Muhammad is leading armies in Syria. Well, according to Islamic tradition, Muhammad died before Arab armies went into Syria. And so this is just one of many ways in which the mentions of Muhammad in the 7th century don't correspond to Islamic tradition. And then when we do start to hear about Muhammad in the 8th and 9th centuries, there is no trace of this individual in the 7th century, the individual that's described in the Islamic literature. There is no indication whatsoever that such a person ever existed.
Even Muhammad is just mentioned 4 times in Quran, and the word Muhammad might be a title as well, because if we read Sahih Muslim Hadith 7410, 7411, and 7412, it is narrated by Anas bin Malik that someone asked Muhammad that when the last hour would come, and there was a young boy present in the mosque, and his name was Muhammad. So Muhammad said that if this young boy lives, he may not grow very old till the last hour will come. So the Muhammad is a title, and it is used as a title in several hadiths. So is it a title because we found the life of Muhammad in Sirat ibn Ishaq, which was the first textbook of Islam, also known as Sirat ibn Hisham. It is actually Sirat ibn Hisham, but just to make it more authentic, scholars try to claim that it is not Sirat ibn Hisham, it is Sirat ibn Ishaq. So is Muhammad a title?
Yeah, that's very possible. And you're quite right. In the first place, the Sirat Rasulullah of Ibn Ishaq dates from the middle part of the 8th century, but we don't actually have any copies of it. We only have it in the recension of Ibn Hisham from the 830s in the 9th century. And we don't have any idea how much Ibn Hisham may have modified the material that he says he took from Ibn Ishaq. And so even people who say that we have biographical data of Muhammad from 130 years after his death, which is already a considerable distance, even that is an exaggeration because Ibn Ishaq's Sirah does not exist. We only have it from 200 years after Muhammad is supposed to have died in Ibn Hisham's recension. Now, as for Muhammad having possibly been a title, there's several pieces of evidence that suggest this. One is that there are coins that were minted by the early Arab empires. That is, the Khalifa Rashidun, the rightly guided caliphates, the Caliphate of Muawiyah, and they say Muhammad, but they also have a cross on them. Now, if Muhammad is supposed to be the prophet of Islam who said that Jesus is going to come back at the end of the world and break the cross, then why would the early Islamic rulers, who may even have supposedly heard this from Muhammad himself, why would they then mint coins with crosses on them and the name of Muhammad? That doesn't make any sense at all. But if one posits that Muhammad, as a gerundive participle in Arabic, meaning the one who is being praised, or the praised one, is a title of the rulers, and the rulers were more hospitable to Christianity than Islam later became at the time when this hadith about Jesus breaking the crosses was invented, which was in the 9th century, then in the 7th century, it's very possible that you have these people taking this title of Muhammad. Another indication of that is the Dome of the Rock inscription. The Dome of the Rock inscription says, "There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger," which is, of course, the Islamic profession of faith. Then, however, it goes on to list a long series of assertions about Jesus, and says that Jesus is not the Son of God, is not the Savior of the world, is not various other things. And Muhammad is no more mentioned. So you have to wonder, why is it that they say there's no God but Allah and Muhammad is his prophet, and then immediately change the subject and start speaking at great length about Jesus and never return to the subject of Muhammad? You could say that they're just scatterbrained and didn't stay on topic. Or you could postulate that the Dome of the Rock inscription didn't refer to Muhammad at all, but was referring to the praised one who was Jesus, and then continues on topic to speak about Jesus in the assertions that the early Arab community that became Islamic were making about Jesus.
I agree to it, and there are several evidences for it. In Sunan Abi Dawud, Hadith 4324, that the Jesus will break the cross, he will abolish the jizya, and he will kill signs. Also in Bukhari 2476 and 2222, that Jesus will break the cross. So he is breaking cross, and there are various different narrations, and even we didn't see the city Mecca mentioned anywhere. First book which mentions city Mecca was the Apocalypse of Presidio Methodius Continatio Byzantia Arabica, which was wrote down after the death of Muhammad, almost after 109 years. This book was written down, and the first book, Sirat ibn Hisham, it was written down at the time of Khalif al Mamun, who was one Abbasid Khalifa, and Islam might be the innovation of that period. We see coins of Mavia and Yazid; they are holding cross, and even the Mecca is nowhere found to be in any map till 900 AD. So Islam has bunch of loopholes, and there could be multiple Kaabas. Means Muslim have this Kaaba, but Muslim have various Kaabas in their hadith. There was one Kaaba Zul Khilasa in Sahih al-Bukhari, which is also known as Kaaba al-Yamaniya or Kaaba Shamiya in Hadith 3823, which Muhammad destroyed um, by his companion Jarir and few people of Ahmad's tribe. And so Kaaba might have actually temple of that period might have been called Kaaba at that time, at the time of Muhammad. And Abbasid destroyed all other Kaabas, and they just make their own. They came up with their new Kaaba and tried to came up with this false history. the first book of Hadith was wrote by Malik bin Anas, and around 150 Hijri, means after the 100 years after the death of Muhammad, around 750 AD. So Islam is actually in innovation of Abbasid, and they came up with all those hadiths, and all those hadiths were mostly wrote by Persians. Imam Bukhari was a Persian. Most of the people are Persian, and that's why we found several Persian traditions in Islam.
Yes, that's right. You got to wonder why it is that Imam Bukhari, when he's collecting 300,000, 600,000 hadith from all over, that he doesn't go to Arabia. Why is it that he's collecting stories of Muhammad, but not where Muhammad lived? Because, of course, the stories weren't actually invented in Arabia. They were invented north of Arabia, in Persia and Iraq and Syria. And so, consequently, if one wanted to collect the hadith in the 9th century, as the Imam Bukhari did, then you have to go around to where they were. And that is another indication that this religion did not originate in Arabia, but farther north. And of course, as you noted, Mecca did not exist at the time of Muhammad as the busy trading center that it is described as being in the Hadith and the Sirah. The Sirah, as a matter of fact, the whole story of Muhammad depends upon Mecca being a center for pilgrimage and for trade, and the Quraysh of Mecca resisting Muhammad because he was going to interfere with their business. And yet, we have all kinds of records from the 7th century of itinerant merchants who traveled between Europe and India on the Spice Road. And to get to Mecca, it's pretty much a straight line, actually, to go from Europe, go from Southern Europe, from Constantinople into India, a straight line to the southeast. But to go to Mecca, you would have to have had to cross hundreds of miles of trackless, desolate desert waste in order to get there, which is extremely unlikely, as it would have been a lethal journey for many people, especially in the summertime. The trade records that we have from the 7th century, from those itinerant merchants, show where they went, because obviously they were salesmen. They took note of where they sold their goods so they could return to those places and try to sell more. And they show no sign of ever having gone to Mecca. Mecca was not a center for trade, as it is portrayed in the Hadith. As you noted, it doesn't even appear on maps until the 9th century, when suddenly it becomes, in the 7th century, a center for trade. It was all concocted. Not only that, but it has been discovered that some of the early mosques don't point toward Mecca. As a matter of fact, none of the early mosques point toward Mecca. They point toward Petra in southern Jordan. Some of them were changed to point to Mecca later. Some of them, it's unclear where they pointed, but there's none of the early mosques unequivocally point to Mecca. And if you have this rather creedally undefined monotheism being the religion of the early Arab empires, and they do worship in mosques, then this explains this. And that it also coincides with traditions in Islamic tradition of various people saying, we never read the Quran in the mosque until the time of Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, around the end of the 7th century and the beginning of the 8th century. Why would there be this lag in doing so, unless it was the Quran was actually invented at that time, put together at that time, and then Muhammad's biography filled in even later?
Yeah, people start reciting Quran in mosques at the time of Hajjaj bin Yusuf, and they even try to copy it from some Jewish traditions. Means the Jews used to move a little bit while they are reciting. They just move their upper body, and that's how Muslims recite nowadays. So they have few traditions which are common. So And there are several evidences, like if we read, when we read the life of Muhammad, that is Sirat ibn Hisham, on page 301, we read that there were walls. Means when Ibn al-Aswa, when he came to Makkah, and some people surrounded him, that did you kill Khaza? And he was sitting, did you kill Ahmar? He was sitting near a wall of Mecca. So Makkah used to have wall, and this city is mentioned nowhere. Means this city Mecca has to be pretty popular, because the Quran chapter 3 verse 96 says that the first house established for mankind, that was at Mecca, which Muslims claim Mecca in brackets, blessed and guidance for the worlds. Means it was guidance for the it was guidance uh, for whole world. But still, the we don't see any evidence in Bible, whether it's a Christian Bible or whether it's Jewish Bible, that any prophet traveling to Mecca, performing Hajj or doing something. This city is called Mother of Cities in Quran chapter 42, Surah Shura, verse 7. Um, that we reveal this Arabic Quran to you, that you may warn the mother of cities, um, and those who are around it. In Quran chapter 6 verse 92, it is called mother of cities, but still this city is not popular, and this city was secure according to Quran chapter 95 verse 1 to 3, Surah At-Teen. Means God saying, by the fig and the olive and by Mount Sinai and by this secure city. Why it is secure? It was surrounded by walls. It was ancient house according to Quran chapter 22 verse 29. Means that, as Quran said, let them groom themselves, fulfill their vows, and circle this ancient house. This house is frequently visited according to Quran chapter 52 verse 4. But still, why it is not popular? Actually, Abraham and Ismail, they actually purified this house so people could perform Hajj. They could travel to this house. They could pray, as in Surah Al-Hajj chapter 22 verse 26. We showed Ibrahim the site of house, saying, do not assign partners to me, purify my house for those who circle around it, those who stand to pray, those who bow and prostrate. But still, this house is mentioned nowhere, any book before Quran, nor it is mentioned in any book other than Quran. It is, we see this house in Sirat Ibn Hisham. So actually, Abbasid are the founder, and this house Kaaba, and but we see, and as we see in Bukhari, that the Kaaba is nothing but a place where people are worshipping their idols, like Kaaba Shamia, Kaaba Yamania, which Zul Khalasa was called. So, and I also read few books of Dan Gibson. I saw in his documentary that all those graves are pointing towards Pekka, of Asian graves of Muslims. All mosques are pointing towards Patra, and even I personally try to verify it. I visit very ancient graves which people claim that these graves belong to few companions of Muhammad. I shocked when I take out what we call to, which we used to see direction. Um,
A compass?
okay, yeah, compass. So when I took out my compass and I tried to see the direction in my mobile app, that where is the Kaaba, they were pointing towards Patra, those ancient graves. So it shows that how Islam, whole history of Islam is false.
Yes, you're quite right. There's no doubt about this. Really, to anyone who is uh, honest about the data, honest about the available evidence, it's impossible to sustain the idea that the Muslims of the 7th century had an extensive collection of traditions that were passed on orally about Muhammad, and yet they never mentioned that they existed or referred to him at all. It strains credulity beyond the breaking point. I saw that there was a question there for a second, but it went away before I could see it entirely. My question is, if Abbasid built Islam, then what did Umayyad in Spain follow? And tell me about the origin of Sufis before Abbasid. Well, the thing about it is that the Abbasids primarily did originate what we know of as Islam today. The Umayyads in Spain did not originally follow it, but as it spread around the Abbasid domains, then they're identifying themselves as being of the same religion, then they adopted it all as well. This is indicated by the fact that the Umayyads are accused of irreligion before the Abbasids, before the advent of the Abbasids, because these traditions of Muhammad had not existed yet. And the same thing goes in regard to the Sufis as well.
And there are various different evidences which shows that Islam never came from Mecca. It can't have that origin because when Abraham and Ishmael they built Kaaba, all other prophets after Abraham and Ishmael and Isaac, they should be prostrating or they should be facing this direction. But in Quran Surah Yunus chapter 10 verse 87 we see that Moses and his brother Aaron, they were not facing the Kaaba. It is mentioned in Quran, and we directed Moses and his brother, prepare a few houses for your people in Egypt and make your houses a direction for men to pray and establish prayer and give glad tidings to men of faith. Means they are appointing a few houses and they are praying facing those houses in Egypt. They are not facing the Kaaba. And Quran actually tells that about Jews and Christians that they recognize this home as they recognize their own sons in Quran chapter 2 verse 146. And those we give scripture know it as they know their own sons. But even Noah is not facing this direction. This was the first home for worship built for humanity. But uh, means this was built by Adam then. But no other prophet is facing towards it. No one is visiting it. People are even doing farming in Mecca. In Quran chapter 6 verse 136 it is mentioned, and they, that is polytheist, assign to Allah from what which he created of crops and livestock a share and say, this is for Allah by their claim, and this is for our partners associate with him. But what is for their partners does not reach Allah, while what is for Allah reaches their partners. Evil is what they rule. Means how people are giving share of their crops to their idols. How crops could exist in Mecca? So it has so many things which are strange.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, you're quite right. Geography of Mecca in the Quran does not correspond to the geography of Mecca in the 7th century or today. It actually corresponds more to it today, but that's because of modern day irrigation techniques, which of course did not exist in the 7th century. And consequently, the idea that Mecca is being described is clearly an extra Quranic assumption. I must emphasize that all this material you're quoting from the Quran, it doesn't actually say that it's in Mecca. When it says the mother of cities and so on, it doesn't say where it is. And it doesn't correspond to what we know of Mecca in the 7th century. Actually, the Quran's geography of Mecca corresponds much more closely to Petra in Jordan than it does to Mecca itself. It's the same kind of thing, actually, just one other thing. It's the same kind of thing that we see with Muhammad. Many people assume, and this is in part because of the way that a lot of translations into English as well as in other languages are written. Many people assume that Muhammad is being addressed all the time in the Quran, spoken to by Allah, because the translations add in his name. Whereas, as you noted, he's only actually mentioned the name Muhammad, or the word Muhammad only actually appears 4 times in the Quran itself. And many, many other times there are references to the messenger or to the apostle of Allah, to the prophet, and people assume that that's about Muhammad. But that's an unproven assumption and not a necessary one. It may be that the person being referred to in the Quran is an entirely different individual, and this material was incorporated from pre-Islamic texts into the Quran. And it's the same thing with Mecca. People assume that when the city, the mother of cities, is spoken about, that they're talking about Mecca. But this also is an assumption that is attached to the text. It is not within the text itself.
I agree. I completely agree. And there are several other evidences that, and all fits on actually Patra. They never fits on Mecca. They means Muhammad was riding donkey. Like there is one hadith in Sunan Abi Dawud, hadith 4002, that Abu Zar Ghafari told that I was sitting behind the Messenger of Allah who was riding a donkey while the sun was setting. And he asked, "Do you know, Abu Zar, where the sun sets?" He replied, "Allah and His Messenger knows the best." He said, "It sets in a spring of warm water." So Muhammad actually, that was the science of Muhammad. But
In the Quran in Surah 18, that
yeah, it tells
aren't
us
to see the sun setting in a muddy pool.
setting in a mud.
Yeah.
So there are, I mean, sunsets between two horns of Satan. There are various hadiths, sets in hot spring of water. But Muhammad was riding a donkey. Makkah used to have a higher thania and a lower thania in Bukhari, like hadith 1575, that Ibn Umar told that Messenger of Allah used to enter Mecca from high thania and used to leave Mecca from low thania. And also in Bukhari 1576 and the Nasai 2865, that Muhammad entered Mecca from upper valley, and which is in Al Batha, and he used to leave from the lower valley. And these description fits on Patra, neither than Mecca.
That's right. I see another question here about the Sufis. Surely Sufis did not take inspiration from violent Quran. I don't know what your love affair is with the Sufis, but they don't deserve your ardor. The reality is that the Sufis have never rejected and do not reject today violent jihad. As a matter of fact, Al-Ghazali, the founding figure of Sufism, was a very explicit supporter of the idea that Muslims must wage war against infidels and subjugate them under the rule of Islamic law. He was very clear about this. And the Sufis have led jihad warfare in various places around the world, notably in Chechnya against the Russians. Starting in the 17th century, the 18th century, it was the Sufis leading jihad against the Russians. The Sufis have never been nonviolent or rejected jihad violence. This is a myth. The West likes to tell itself, I don't know if you're in the West or in India or wherever, but I know that Westerners love to tell themselves lies about Islam, and some of the main ones revolve around the Sufis being peaceful. Another thing about the Sufis is that the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood, Hassan al-Banna, was very influenced by Sufism and prescribed Sufi spiritual exercises for the early Muslim brothers, but that never led him to be nonviolent. He always thought that jihad warfare was part of Islam. Sufism didn't stop him from doing that. Sufi Islam is no less violent than any other kind of Islam.
Yeah, and Muhammad also told in Sahih al-Bukhari, Hadith 3030, that every war is a deception. So, and Muhammad also tell in various different hadiths that you could lie when you are in war, or you are lie in three cases, like battle, or for uniting husband and wife, or if you want to protect yourself from persecution. In Sahih Muslim 6633 and Tirmidhi 1939. So you could actually lie during war. So Islam has the concept of taqiyya. So beware, Sufism has no peace. Neither Ahmadiyas are also not peaceful.
Yes, that's right. You know, war is deceit, war is deception. This is a very important hadith because it comes up in so many different contexts, and Sufis have mastered this with the idea that they're giving Westerners the idea that they reject jihad violence. And I even met a Sufi once who told me he wasn't even a Muslim. He was a Sufi, but not a Muslim. And this is the kind of thing that they tell Westerners, and most Westerners don't know. They don't realize they're being lied to. The Ahmadis, of course, they deceive people on a massive scale. They're 1.8% of Muslims worldwide. They are rejected as heretics and apostates for believing that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad is the Messiah, that is a prophet after Muhammad, when Muhammad, according to Surah 3340, is the seal of the prophets, the last prophet. There are no prophets after him, so Mirza Ghulam Ahmad can't be a prophet. The Ahmadis are not true Muslims according to mainstream and Orthodox Sunnis and Shia. And so then the Ahmadis come to the United States and they say love for all, hatred for none, although they're some of the most hateful people I've ever encountered, but that's another story. They say love for all and hatred for none, and true Islam. They have trueislam.org or whatever it is. And, true Islam.
Islam.org.
Yeah, well, no, they have True Islam. I know, I don't remember the domain name, but they certainly have a True Islam campaign in the West. And they try to convince people, and they make great strides doing it. They have great success doing it. They convince people Islam teaches peace and rejects terrorism.
I did several streams exposing Ahmadiyya Muslim cult and exposing them from their own literature, and they always try to show the peaceful version of Islam. They deny all those hadiths. They take everything as a metaphor, and love for all and hatred for none. I exposed them, and they are not even able to answer my videos, which I make them exposing them. They do the false propaganda that their numbers are increasing, and they do several false propaganda, and they hate West the most, but still they are living in the West is giving them all the rights. All Muslim countries are killing them, but still they hate Western people the most, and they want them to accept Islam, and they want to change West into Sharia politically.
Yeah. It's ironic. It's bitterly ironic, really, because in the United States, we have Ahmadiyya spokesmen who get tremendous publicity, such as Qasim Rashid and Haris Zafar and others. And they actually work with Muslim Brotherhood linked organizations in the United States. And yet in Pakistan and in Indonesia, the Muslim Brotherhood linked organizations violently persecute the Ahmadiyya. And so they are working with the people who are persecuting their own people. But it's all because, of course, as the old saying in Arabic goes, my brother against my brother, but both of us against our cousin. They may hate the Orthodox Sunnis and Shia, but they hate the infidels more, and they're very good at lying to the infidels. And the infidels, of course, in the United States are so very eager to be lied to.
You have a huge fan following in India, and actually people here follow you more than the West. Means people love your books. I saw so many Indians having your books, even in some bookshops. So people love reading you, and actually, you see, means I also I'm living in London, but I'm an Indian. I was born in India, and even I left Islam reading you. So you are bringing a great change. You are actually making this world a better place.
Well, I appreciate. I'm very grateful for that, and thank you.
You took me out from this darkness, and I took other people out after coming out.
Great to hear. And I would hope that I can visit India someday. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but it would be wonderful. I'd love to go.
Yeah, we could have streams on different topics. And we should come back to our topic, the existence of Muhammad. And this city, Mecca, said never. This city, actually, the Quranic evidence also tells us that this city was Patra, because this city was near Sodom and Gomorrah, according to Quran chapter 11, verse 89. And O my people, Muhammad is telling that, and O my people, let not your dissension from me cause you to be struck by that is similar to what struck the people of Noah, the people of Hud, the people of Saleh, and the people of Lut are not far away from you. And in Quran, Surah Safat, chapter 37, verse 137 to verse 138, and indeed you pass by them in the morning and at night, then will you not use reason? So people of Mecca passed to they are not far away from you, and you pass by them in the morning and at night. Means this place was really near the place where Prophet Lut came. It was really near to Mecca. In and we had read several hadiths that there were dogs in Mecca, there were cats. Muhammad tell that cats don't invalidate the prayer, and they are really useful in house. Muhammad forbade eating cats. This place has donkeys. Even we have cows. Muhammad slaughter cows. Muhammad actually, there were even monkey which were in Mecca, which were going to stone one adulterous monkey. Uh, as mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari, Hadith 3849, Amr bin Mamun narrated, during the pre-Islamic period of ignorance, I saw a she monkey surrounded by a number of monkeys. They were all stoning it because of it had committed illegal sexual intercourse. I used to stone it along with them.
I
Uh,
wonder, what, have you ever seen a monkey wedding ceremony?
no.
I find these hadiths are ridiculous, and it's amazing that people take them seriously. What we have actually in the hadith are the incorporation of a great deal of old folk material that is brought into the story of Muhammad, and uh, superstitions and silliness of all manner of things that come from the pre-Islamic peoples of the region where all this was put together, like as you're describing in modern day Jordan, Syria, Iraq, and so on. That you have to blow your nose 3 times in the morning because Satan goes to sleep in the bridge of your nose at night, and things of this kind. That if it weren't for the fact that people were constantly told that Muhammad is the greatest person who ever lived and the favorite of Allah, and that this is the perfect word of Allah, people would find all this silly and ridiculous and be embarrassed to believe it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I know that hadith was Satan sit on your nose. Satan also fought when he heard the call for prayer. Uh,
Yes, and if you read
and when
uh,
so that is this
Al-Baqarah,
religion is pretty strange. Actually, that farting hadith of Satan is Bukhari hadith 608 122 1231 and 3285. Satan laughed when he saw someone yawning in Bukhari 3289. Satan sit on your nose, Bukhari 3295. And even Muhammad, I don't know, when he said that when you saw donkey brink, take refuge of Allah because they see what you do not see. So there are bunch of strange hadiths, and there are even talking animals in Islam. There are talking animals like and Bukhari hadith 2324 and 3471, and Sahih Muslim hadith 6183, that Abu Huraira said that the Prophet said in the mosque, while a man was riding a cow, it turned towards him and said, I have not been created for this purpose, that is carrying. I have been created for plugging. The Prophet added, I and Abu Bakr believe in this story. The Prophet went on uh, saying that a wolf caught a sheep, and when the shepherd chased it, the wolf said, who will be its guard on the day of wild beast, when there will be no shepherd for it except me? And all the companions said, Subhanallah, dogs and wolves speak. Ox and wolf speak.
And
And
remember,
Muhammad said that I and Abu Bakr believe in this story. And this mention in Tirmidhi, Bukhari, Al Mufrad, his hadith is pretty popular. So, animal speaking. But the point is, cow, sheep, goats, all these animals in Mecca, monkeys, cats, rabbits, and we have monkey stoning, and we have bunch of different animals. This shows that Islam didn't came from Mecca. And all these animals are found in Petra, and this city is near Sodom and Gomorrah. And
as well,
this was the
Greek
travel route,
prophet. The trees
and
Greek
people you
prophet, and there were no trees in Mecca. So there again, that supports what you're saying, that the trees are speaking to Muhammad, and the trees are only found farther north.
yeah, there are trees, there are valleys, trees speaking to Muhammad. Sorry, but still, I was controlling my laugh all the time when I was talking about these. There are actually there are even rats. Some Jews also became rats according to few hadiths. Uh, so uh, the, there was grass of Askar and Jalil in Mecca, and especially when the Bilal, actually when he came to Mecca, when he came to Medina from Mecca, he became sick, as mentioned in Bukhari Hadith 1889 and 3926 and 5654, that Bilal got fever, and when his fever, uh, when he fell little well, so he used to say that I wish I could drink the water of Mijana, and whether I shall see once again the hills of Shama and Tafil, and I could spend a night in the valley of Makkah with Askar and Jalil grass. So there was grass, there was trees. When Muhammad he conquered the city Mecca, he said that no trees of Mecca would be cut off, and the grass should not be cut off. And he said the grass should not be uprooted, no tree should be cut. So it shows that the city has its vegetation should not be destroyed. Means the city has vegetation, it has grass. So uh, either this person didn't exist, or even if he exists, this was a different place. He might even not have been a Muslim, he might be a Christian.
Yes, well, that would explain the crosses on the coinage. Uh, there's a strange ambivalence toward Christianity in the Quran, where in chapter 5, verse 82, when it says the Jews are the worst enemies of the Muslims, the Jews and the polytheists, the Christians are the greatest friends of the Muslims. But then in the same chapter, chapter 5, verse 17, and again in 72, it says that unbelievers are those who say that Allah is the Messiah, the Son of Mary. So if you have Christians who believe in the divinity of Christ, then they're unbelievers. And then chapter 9, verse 30 says that those who say that Jesus is the Son of God are under the curse of Allah. And so it would appear that there was a strain of Christianity, a Christian sect or a heretical group that did not believe in the divinity of Christ, that was the faith of the early Arabs, or they were strongly influenced by it. And then this evolved into Islam in the 8th and 9th centuries.
uh, Quran, as the Quran contradicts itself in so many ways. Means as the power of Muhammad was increasing, his nature was changing. In Quran chapter 5 verse 51, "O you who believe, do not take Jews and Christians as friends, as allies." So before, when Muhammad was not in power, Quran was saying that the closest in love with you are those who are Christians. But later,
Yeah,
when Muhammad came into power, it says that, "O you who believe, do not take disbeliever for friend instead of believers."
but
Do you
it's worth.
want to produce?
That's in the same
Yeah,
chapter. That's all in Surat Al-Maida, the chapter of the
yeah,
table, 5. It's 551 says, don't take Jews and Christians as your friends. And then chapter 582 says the Christians are your best friends. So this also is indication either that Muhammad is very scatterbrained, and so he says one thing and contradicts himself within 5 minutes, or that, and this is much more likely, that the whole thing was written by committee, put together from different sources, and so they put together something, they put into the same chapter a statement that says, don't trust the Christians, don't make friends with them, and another statement that's favorable to the Christians, and combined it all willy-nilly.
yeah. In early period, Muhammad trusted Christian, that he tell his follower that they should migrate, um, and uh, and there is a Christian ruler. They should live under its rule, and they will be safe, guarded. Uh, so this shows that what Islam was before and what it became after Muhammad came into power. So I guess our stream is more than 45 minutes long. So we could I want you to come back again. We could discuss on various different issues, and there are so many things to discuss. But don't want to make the stream longer. Don't want to be it so long, else people will not.
Well, in that case, just stop talking. Um, I think I've changed the whole schedule around of this episode. I didn't expect this Robert Spencer guy to come up with so much incredible information. So this interview will stand as an episode on its own, and this is part 2 of Roman Catholic pervert popes. We've covered one pervert pope in part 1. Part 2, unfortunately, is going to just be this interview. When I come back with part 3, we will be covering the second pervert pope, Roman Catholic pope, Pope Benedict the Ninth. And we'll also I'll also show you how Nephilim free rage quits modern day debates. And again, it shows you how absolutely devoid of substance, vacuous and specious the Christian arguments against evolution are. Most epic, yes, I do want to address what you said there. You said apostate Imam is a false ex Mumin. I don't know what that is. I strongly suspect he is a troll trying to get momentum. Um, um, he might be trying to get momentum. If you watched Apostate Prophet, if you do go back and watch Apostate Prophet's interview of Apostate Imam from this morning, you'll see how it ends pretty badly when Apostate Prophet feels like he's been lied to by this Apostate Imam. He's not a scholar. He's not an Imam. You know, he's not an ex-Imam. He's just a young kid who grew up in Islam and has seen the light. You know, and it's no big crime or anything like that. But I thought I'll leave you with that today. Um, if anybody does want to have a chat in the conversation room, it is open. You can join anytime. The description, as usual, is in the is down in the description. So feel free to join anytime. If I'm not, sometimes I'm out the room, but the room is open, and sometimes I've closed the room. But either way, If you do feel like joining the room at any time, just click on the link. Most likely I'll be available. Okay, so having said that, we'll just leave it at that, and we'll see you in the next episode, which will be covering the second Roman Catholic pervert. Both.